everyone, my name is Fiona Draxler. Today I will present the KI paper Augmented Reality to enable users in learning case grammar from their real-world interactions. This is from a project that I did together with Audrey, Labrie, Albrecht, Schmidt and Chuang. As a bit of background, here's a picture of what people have always been doing to learn languages. They've tagged their surroundings with sticky notes, explaining vocabulary that they would then walk past by and learn on the go, basically. But it's quite an effort to label everything in your surroundings. So that's why artificial intelligence methods could be interesting, that automatically scale the content by creating new sticky notes for you that you then see in augmented reality. But there are also other reasons why AR might be useful for language learning besides making content scalable. For example, it has been shown that contextual relevance improves vocabulary recall. And it's also quite easy to show image information besides textual verbal information, which increases the associative strength of vocabulary when you learn it. In this case, this is a multimedia learning. Furthermore, AR can visualize spatial and temporal relationships because it enables you to interact with your environment and interactively find out about objects in their relationship. AR has already been used for language learning in a couple of projects. Just to name two, here we have Arbis Pictures and WordSense, two projects that label objects in the learner's surroundings with their corresponding translations, and in the case of WordSense also with example sentences and some video material in addition to it. The question is though, there's more to language than vocabulary, right? So there are also structural concepts and grammar aspects that we need to learn. So can we also use AR in this case? What we looked at specifically was German case grammar. And we decided to come up with a concept that would also label objects in the learner's surroundings, but then use their spatial relationship to explain German case grammar. To make you understand what this is actually about, I brought some examples. So in this picture you see der Laptop und die Topfpflanze as two objects. And if we want to describe their spatial relationship in English, we would just say the laptop is to the left of the potted plant. So the still remains the. But if we do the same in German, we have the sentence der Laptop steht links von der Topfpflanze. So as you can see, die Topfpflanze changes to der Topfpflanze. This is necessary because the preposition in this case demands a dative case of this specific noun. This is quite difficult for learners of German and could therefore be an interesting case to look at. Now, as an AR concept, we would implement this by annotating the real world and then by making users, giving them the possibility to select objects. And thus we create sentences, example sentences and quizzes in a handheld-AR application with the purpose that it's widely available on users' normal smartphones. This is how the implementation looked in the end. So learners select first one object, then a second one, and based on this, a quiz is created with multiple choice options for the preposition and article combination. Specifically, the quizzes were constructed as follows. So first we had a first object that was the subject of the sentence, then a verb that indicated the position, either stands or lies, or depending on the object. Then we had the multiple choice options for preposition plus article. This was derived based on the real world position of the two objects, so to the left, behind, in front, and so on. And then we had the second object. Now the question is, does this really help? Is it good for learning? Is it more useful than traditional methods like flashcard applications? That is why we introduced the control of a snapshot application. This basically showed the same images as in the AR application, but they were created statically. They were taken from the AR usage and then introduced as static flashcards with the same multiple choice options, but no direct object interaction. So to summarize from a learning perspective, the AR app had the advantage of context and direct object interaction. On the other hand, Snapshot provided a familiar type of interface, and both had realistic content, photorealistic content. The hypothesis that we formulated was that case grammar improvement with the AR application would be greater than for people that used the Snapshot application. And we conducted a user study with exactly this hypothesis. We used a between groups setting design with 24 participants. We had a procedure of first using a pre-study questionnaire where we asked about demographics and experience with AR and VR, and then did some vocabulary and grammar tests. Then people used the application, the respective one, for up to 15 minutes. We had an additional vocabulary and grammar test plus some usability and feedback questionnaires. And then finally, 1 week after, to allow for a bit of memory consolidation, we had a second test on vocabulary and grammar. We collected data such as interaction logs, the responses to the system usability scale, and we asked about usage situations. Plus, we had the knowledge tests and transfer tests that I mentioned before. Results show that case grammar performance did not improve a lot in either condition. You have to note here that the performance even went down a bit from the first to the second test in the case of AR, but this was probably due to the type of test that we used. So the first one was slightly easier than the second one. And our hypothesis that we formulated could not be found to be true. So there was actually moderate evidence for the hypothesis, for the null hypothesis, that AR was not better than Snapshot in this case. So we can see that Snapshot probably also has a couple of benefits, like familiarity. It's easy to repeat material, and you might not get so easily distracted by the interaction with your environment. So we can actually say that Snapshot apps or flashcard apps are probably still an integral part of mobile learning. The system usability scale showed some additional proof for the fact that they were not really different in usability either. Plus, we collected a couple of statements here to show why some of the ratings could have been caused. So the first one is for Snapshot. People said that arrows could have been useful to display the actual spatial relationships. And they also missed gamification elements like a points score or level system. But overall, the app was easy to use. The AR app had some technology issues regarding the relative position detection. Apparently that was not always correct. And apparently the marker detection was slow in some cases. But overall, the app was interactive and fun and also easy to use. As you can see, those are mostly technology issues. Regarding the concepts, there was actually not so much critical feedback, which is an encouraging point, I suppose. Now, another interesting point was the potential usage context. We saw that the Snapshot application would have been used by people. They said they would use it mostly on public transport or at home. So we have static contexts. On the other hand, AR is also frequently seen as a suitable use case at families or friends' places or even outdoors. So exploring the environment would be the purpose that people employ here. As a summary, we can say that we presented a novel AR app for learning case grammar. But using this app did not really improve learning outcomes compared to a traditional flashcard method for German case grammar as a structural concept of language. Our qualitative analysis showed some positive and negative aspects of both technologies. And for example, it showed that AR would be most likely used in exploratory settings too. Now this leads us to the conclusion that hybrid solutions could be interesting to look at. And I brought a small concept here of what something like this could look like. So we could have an AR component and a static component that are both regulated by some kind of context sensing, attention sensing, and learner tracking module that would determine the context of the learner and then encourage them to either use an AR exploration method if they're in an exploratory setting, or to look at some static content when the setting is more stationary. In the AR case, we would first have some exploration of the environment, detection of objects, position tracking, and then based on this, AR quizzes would be recorded. That could then be used as content for the static component. When the static component is used, we have again two use cases depending on the attention level. Studying with the AR and other flashcards would be a use case for low or medium attention levels, maybe on public transport when there's a bit of distraction around. And when users have the potential full attention, then this could be a perfect moment for introducing new content from a textbook that requires a bit of focus, but it's also important to cover the curriculum that you're supposed to cover. Now this could be a nice interplay of different components that take advantage of the different benefits of situations. Okay, that was it from my side. I hope you got a good overview of the topic that we explored. And I'm very happy to take questions if you have any. Here you can see my email address. Don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you for your attention.